Hi. So, in addition to making a Mother's Day post about my babies, I figured I'd make a little video talking about how I met my babies, aka my birth story. Yeah, I have my notes here that I'm going off of because it's a lot that I wrote so that it'll keep me on track. So I'm going to start with Ollie, my first baby. On Wednesday, February 24th, 2021, I had my last prenatal appointment at 38 weeks, and I was 1 centimeter dilated, and it was just a waiting game. And my doctor was like, just have a plan, make sure you know different scenarios, what to do and all that. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So then the next day, Thursday, late at night, Dylan asked to discuss the scenarios and plans. He was kind of nervous. I mean, we were both nervous, but I just really didn't think anything was going to happen so soon because I was 38 weeks. There was still 2 weeks left before my due date. And it was funny because he was taking a shower and he was like, can you just talk me through it while I'm taking a shower? So I was like sitting outside bouncing on my yoga ball and just talking to him. So yeah, we discussed all the different scenarios, like if my water breaks, if I start having contractions, like what am I supposed to time? What are we supposed to look for? All those things. And then after we talked, we went to bed like a normal night. And also just like any normal night, I woke up at 2 a.m. and got up to pee, which has been happening for weeks prior to this because pregnancy. So yes, Friday 2 a.m. I got up to pee, and after I peed, I stood up and I was about to like pull my pants up, but then I just felt like this trickle coming down my leg, and I was like, oh shoot, I didn't finish peeing, so let me just sit back down and finish peeing. And I was like trying to go in different angles, like make sure everything is emptied out. And then I stood up again, tried to wipe, still trickling. I'm like, do I just not know how to pee anymore? Like, is this how pregnancy is? I just don't know how to pee. But I stood up and down a few more times, and every single time I stood up, it was still trickling. So I'm like, okay. So I decided I'm gonna smell this fluid, and there was no smell. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I don't know. And so I woke Dylan up and I was like, hey, can you smell this? I had him smell what I thought was pee, and he also said there was no smell. And I looked at the liquid in the toilet, and it was just ever so slightly like a tinge of pink. So I was like, I guess I need to call the hospital? I don't know. It's my first pregnancy. I don't know anything. So I called the hospital and I'm like, hey, I think I'm leaking some fluid, but I don't know if it's pee or if it's my water or what. And they're like, well, we can't tell if you don't come in, so you might as well just come in. So I'm like, okay. So then we got our stuff ready, and I woke my mom up and I was like, hey, we're gonna head to the hospital because there's like something leaking, and they said to come in to check to test the fluid. And she was just like, okay, sure. And she didn't think anything was going to come out of it. She thought I was just going to come home afterwards. And I was just like a first time parent, not knowing anything about birth, whatever. So she thought nothing was going to happen. There's going to be no baby yet. And I mean, honestly, same. And so we left around like 3 a.m. And we got to the hospital, and I checked in at 3:40. And they said that I was still 1 centimeter. They tested the fluid and kept asking me if I was in pain, and I was like, no, I don't feel anything. And I also wasn't like having any contractions, so just nothing. It was just the fluid. So then when they tested the fluid, it turned out to be the amniotic fluid, so my water did break. And then they're like, we're gonna admit you because this is your water and we have to induce you. It was my water that broke, but it's not the type of breaking of water like in the movies where it just like gushes out. It was literally just trickling down the side of my leg. It was very uncomfortable. And yes, they said I needed to be induced because I wasn't laboring, had no contractions and nothing. So I was in triage and they were checking me, and the nurse was trying to take some notes, because I didn't have any birth plan. I wasn't prepared for anything. I was just like, whatever happens, which Anyway, so she was asking me, do you want to get an epidural? We're gonna have to induce you, and so I'm gonna ask you now if you want to get an epidural. And I was like, I really want to try not to do it. If I can do it without, like, I will, you know. I want to avoid it as much as possible, and we'll just see. Cause I don't know what labor pains are. I don't know anything, but I just know I don't want no needle in my back. I was so terrified of having a catheter put into my spine just so that I couldn't feel my legs. No. Anyway, next page. I was checked in just before 4 o'clock in the morning, and they were telling me I had to wait in triage because they were cleaning up the room that I was gonna be in, and they actually didn't get it cleaned up until 2 hours later. So we were checked into that room at 6 a.m. and once I was in there, we settled in, and that's when they started my Pitocin to get labor going. Multiple nurses that were helping me throughout this morning of, you know, setting up my induction and all that stuff kept asking me, are you sure you don't want an epidural? We can let the anesthesiologist coming in today know that you are going to consider it so that he can figure it out, you know. And I was like, I really want to say no. Like, please, I will try to see how painful it is, and if I get through it, then great. If not, then I will, like, maybe I'll just figure it out. But I don't want it. I will tell you no right now. And multiple nurses came up to me and was like, are you sure? This is your first baby. You're getting induced. Sometimes inductions take a very long time. I'm just letting you know right now, you can get an epidural. We can write it down here. And I was like, no, please, no, I don't want to. After the Pitocin started, I felt the tightenings, the early stages of, like, contractions, you know. There was still no pain with the tightening, but it started pretty quickly. Gradually the pain started, but I just kept breathing through it. I was, like, reading before that, you know, your uterus is a muscle, so when it is contracting and stuff, you need to, like, let the muscle have oxygen. So I was very, very, very focused on my breathing. I was breathing so well. Take that deep breath, let that muscle have oxygen, and just, like, let it out slowly and controlled. I was so good at breathing. So according to my pictures on my phone, my last selfie that I took with Dylan was around 10 a.m. So this was like 4 hours since the Pitocin started. I was still okay. Like, I was having conversations with Dylan. We were watching the Food Network and just chatting. I guess after 10 a.m. it got pretty serious. So I put my phone down and I just, like, really started focusing. I had to really breathe through each contraction. So at some point after that, when it started to get really intense, you know, the primal noises started happening. It was like, you know, like, I had to, like, hum through the pain. It started to really get painful. But I was, like, humming through it. I was, like, making these primal noises, just like a low hum, and it was amazing. And it was really funny because in between the contractions, when I would, like, have a moment of a relaxation, Dylan would come up to me and say, okay, but do the contractions hurt more than your ear infections? And I was like, no, it doesn't. I have really bad ear infections, and they are debilitating. But labor, it comes in waves, so in a way more manageable, because you know that after the climax of the contraction, it'll subside for even just a moment, whereas an ear infection is just like a constant pain. Every little movement, every breath, it's like, no. Anyway, so just 3 hours after it started to get really intense, my nurse came in and was noticing that I was in some pretty bad pain. I think she came in and she was like, oh girl, you look like you in pain. She was so mocha, I just loved it. So she checked, and I was already 8 centimeters. At 6 a.m. I was 1 centimeter still, and by 1 o'clock I was already 8 centimeters. So she started getting the room ready for delivery, and I think she called my doctor. She was like, okay, she's gonna come now, so you're gonna have this baby soon. But she said that my cervix on my right side wasn't quite fully dissolved, so she had me flip over to my right side, and I was just, like, leaning on the bed sideways, and She's like, we just need to let the right side dissolve a little more, and then you'll be 10 centimeters and ready to push. Like, you're gonna have this baby soon. And I was like, okay, sure. Shortly after she checked me, I dilated to 10. My doctor came in just like right before I started to push. She was like, okay, let's do this. She had me go back onto my back, and it was very peaceful considering it's like my first birth, and I don't know anything, but I didn't have any medication, so I could like feel and listen to my body. And I had the urges to push. They were just like, if you feel like you need to push, like just push, because I was already fully dilated. So it was so satisfying to push after contraction, just trying to breathe through it. And by the time I was 8 centimeters, I already like started to feel some urge to start pushing, but my nurse was like, hold on, you need to dilate to 10. So I'm like, okay. So by the time they were like, you're good to push whenever you feel like it, and I was like, yes. So then I felt like it. I pushed so freaking hard. Oh my God, I was pushing so hard. It just felt so satisfying to push, you know what I mean? And so he started to like move down the canal. And as he was moving down the canal, my doctor was massaging the opening like this to kind of help it get ready for the ring of fire. And it was actually so painful, but she was doing it while I was pushing, so there was just a lot going on. And because she was massaging me, by the time he did come down and start to crown, the ring of fire actually wasn't as fiery as I expected, because she was already making it pretty fiery, you know. So Ollie had such a big old head. I mean, he still has a big old head. By the time his head finally came out, it felt like his body just followed so rapidly. I cannot describe the feeling. It's already so satisfying to push when you have a contraction. It's like, it just feels so purposeful to push after like not being able to push for so long. And once the head comes out, the body just like comes out right after so rapidly, and it's like almost like a vomit in a way. And oh my God, it is just the most magical feeling. The most magical feeling. I cannot describe it. And immediately after he came out, my doctor put him onto my stomach. The heat of his body on my stomach, God, I could cry. It was so beautiful. Just the way the heat of his body on my stomach was so, I don't know, I can't describe it. It was just so beautiful. When he was on my stomach, that's when, you know, Dylan cut the umbilical cord, and he was trying to cut it like from the tip of the scissors instead of like the stronger part, and so he was really struggling with that. So yes, he came out at 1:24 p.m. I pushed for 15 minutes. First baby, no epidural, and I had my baby boy. He was 7 pounds, 7 ounces, and 21 inches long. And he is just a mama's boy through and through. Probably because Dylan couldn't cut his cord, you know. I'm just kidding. I was 38 weeks and 4 days when Ollie was born. He came 10 days early. His due date was supposed to be March 8th, and he came February 26th. So the next birth is Millie, my beautiful baby girl. Millie girl. Okay, so I got pregnant with her when Ollie was like 9 months old. So they are 18 months and 1 day apart. So with Millie, Friday, August 26, 2022, I went to my prenatal visit, and at this point I was already past my due date by 4 days. And I was at 1 centimeter, had no pain, there was no signs of labor, nothing. She was just sitting pretty. And I opted for a membrane sweep with her because it was August, y'all. It was August. I was so pregnant, so heavy, so tired, so sweaty, so hot. I literally was walking around the house all the time with just a bra on. It was so hot. And I opted for a membrane sweep to try and see if it'll get things going, because I really thought she was gonna come early, because Ollie was early. And she's the second born. I just thought, I don't know, it'll just go by faster. I honestly thought we were going to share a birthday. My birthday's August 12th, and I really thought she was going to come 10 days early, just like Ollie, and share her birthday with me. But no, she just does what she wants. But I urged her a little bit to come out, because I was sick of it. The sweep itself, I was reading that it's very painful, but personally, it was very uncomfortable. There's lots of pressure. So like what happens is the doctor kind of sweeps the area between the sac and your cervix, I think. Google it. But I'm pretty sure it's something about pushing the sac away from the cervix a little bit so that you can kind of get things moving. So maybe the labor would start. And shortly after my appointment, I did start to feel pressure. It was a lot of pressure and it was uncomfortable, but it was very fast. I did have mild contractions, pretty much just like period cramps. And it continued through the night, but not necessarily getting more intense. It continued until the morning, Saturday the 27th. I was trying to time it because it did start to get painful, but it wasn't like anything unbearable. Okay, sorry y'all. I don't know what happened to the previous clip, but while I was editing, the video froze, but the audio was still working, so I'm just gonna try again. Also, please don't mind the roosters that are cockadoodling in the background. You know, I live in the countryside. Sorry. I was talking about the contractions going into the morning, and I did time it, and it was 5 to 7 minutes apart. And so we decided to drop Ollie off to my mom's shop at 10 a.m. so that she could watch him, and we headed to the hospital. So this was August 27th, 2022 at 10:30 a.m. We checked in. Of course, they admitted me because I was already well overdue. Again, I didn't have a birth plan, so I just made my request at triage, and I requested no intervention. This time my water didn't break, so I was able to ask to be mobile during labor. No epidural. I wanted a yoga ball, and I also am that person who requested a mirror because, girl, I need to see it all. I need to see it. So I was moving and exercising and stretching and doing lunges and all these things the whole time since we got into our room. And this was happening for about 6 or so hours. So they fed me lunch and they fed me dinner. Meanwhile, I was squatting, lunging, I was going in weird positions. Every contraction, I was just trying something different, doing everything I could to get this girl down the canal. I dilated to about 5 centimeters, and I actually just tired myself out. I was so exhausted from doing the most while I was laboring. Every time the nurse came in, she kept saying, I don't trust second borns. You know, you can go from 1 centimeter to 10 centimeters in less than an hour, and you press that nurse button if anything takes a quick turn. She kept repeating, I don't trust second borns. But it was funny because Millie was so comfy. She was so comfy in there, and by 7 o'clock, I opted for them to break my water because I was exhausted. I was already exercising for like a solid 6-7 hours. So she gave me the option to break my water, and I was like, yep, sure, just do it. But she did warn me that once my water was broken, it was going to get very intense. And so they broke it, and there was so much water. It just kept coming out just nonstop, and the contractions did get intense really, really quick. So they broke it at 7 p.m. The primal noises were super guttural this time, and I was still trying to work really hard to breathe through the pain. And I don't know what time it was, but they checked me again at some point, and I was 8 centimeters, and I had to flip over to my right side again. I don't know why my body, for some reason, like the right side of my cervix doesn't want to dissolve when I'm in labor. I was laying on my side again, just like, and it hurt so bad. Like, my hips were hurting so badly, and the way my leg was hovering, it was so uncomfortable. But they were like, just stay here for a few more contractions. It's gonna open up. Don't worry. You're gonna be able to push soon. And I'm like, oh, okay. there was like a moment where I like lost control of my breathing, my focus on breathing, that my nurse had to literally get in my face and she was like, Danielle, listen to me. You need to focus. And I was like, okay. Finally, I was 10 centimeters and my doctor came in and asked me, do you want to just push on your side? You can do that. And I was like, no. And so I already felt like pushing. I think I said too, I was like, I feel like I need to push. And she was like, do you want to just push on your side? I'm like, no. It was just it's so uncomfortable. So then they helped me go onto my back. That's when they had the mirror there, and I think the doctor said, your mirror is right there if you want to look at it. And then I was like, I can't see. And like when I was saying I can't see, like the contraction started to come, so I was like, ah! You know? And so there was 2 doctors, 2 nurses, a student. It was a party. And I think the student was the one who adjusted my mirror, and then I could finally see. And girl, I saw Millie crowning, and oh, it was just the coolest thing. Like, so freaking cool. I saw her start to crown and I was pushing. The nurse had to really like coach me because I was just starting to lose control. So yes, I saw it happening. And after that, I had to close my eyes and like refocus. I took another deep breath and I just like pushed with all my might, and Millie just came flying out. Dylan was saying that she came out so fast that she kind of like came out and did a little spin in the doctor's hand, like she kind of had to, you know, that sort of motion. I asked the nurse how long I was pushing for, and she goes, let's see, you started pushing at 9:09 p.m. and she was born 9:12. 3 minutes of pushing. She flew out. But because she flew out so fast, so like when the baby's coming down the canal, if they're coming down slowly, they kind of get squeezed out like a sponge. So all the fluid in their lungs gets squeezed out. So by the time they're fully out, they're able to take a really nice breath. But she flew out so friggin' fast that her lungs were still friggin' loaded with liquid. She was crying like, you know, her cries was very wet, and it was so sad to hear. But the nurse that was taking care of her at the baby warmer was like, oh, she's fine, just take care of yourself, Mom, like it's okay, she's doing good. But I was worried. So yeah, 3 minutes of pushing, and she was born 7 pounds 9 ounces and 20 inches long, which is crazy to me because I was 5 days overdue, and I truly thought that she was gonna be over 8 pounds. She was just 2 ounces heavier than Ollie. Oh, I forgot to say, after she flew out, immediately again they put her straight onto my stomach. I just cannot describe to you that feeling. It is the best feeling in the world. The warmth of their bodies, they just came from your body, and it's just, now they're on the outside and they're so warm. So freaking beautiful. And she was so cheesy, covered in vernix. And I think one of the first things I said to her was like, oh my gosh, hi baby. And I was like, hi cheesy girl. But she was so precious. She was born 40 weeks and 5 days. That's my baby girl. So as of Mother's Day 2024, I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and they teach me new things every single day. I am so lucky and I'm so grateful that I get to grow alongside them. They are just the best things that's ever happened to me in my entire life. I just love being a mom. I love it. It's hard. It's freaking hard, man. But everything that comes with being a mother, I fully embrace it. It's just the hardest, the most rewarding, the most beautiful journey. And I am so grateful to be able to do that. So anyway, happy Mother's Day to all you moms, mother figures, bonus moms, single dads. I hope that the humans that you have raised celebrate you the way that you want to be celebrated, and not, you know, the way that they want to celebrate you. Like, I hope they celebrate you the way that you want. Just know that you are loved and you are very much appreciated. And I just hope you feel that, you know, not only on Mother's Day, but all the time, because you deserve it. Anyway, thank you for watching.